Hi everyone, Rochelle, the real life carnivore here. I wanted to come on here today and just share with you about what the first 25, 26 weeks of my pregnancy has looked like. Currently, as of today, I'm 26 weeks pregnant, which is just super exciting, super amazing. Entering the third trimester as of next week, I believe. It's been interesting. So, as a carnivore, pregnancy has been a lot of fun for me. Some of you might know my story. Some of you may not know my story, but that's what I'm here to share. So I hope that this gives you encouragement and inspiration. If you haven't already, I would love if you would hit the subscribe button and definitely feel free to like this post. Drop me a comment. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Let me know what you're working through. Are you a carnivore? Are you not a carnivore? I would love to hear from you. So let's dive on in. Okay, so let me start by sharing part of my story. So my husband and I are originally from Canada. We're currently living down in Southeast Texas. We love it down here. It's been amazing getting to move down here. Part of why we decided that we wanted to go carnivore was because we were told by some fertility specialist that it would be next to impossible for us to conceive. We found ourselves leading towards carnivore. I came across this interview with Dr. Ken Berry and Kelly Hogan. If you don't know who they are, they're amazing, amazing. Kelly's been a carnivore, I think, for 14 years now. Dr. Ken Berry is a doctor, and he is totally pro-carnivore, totally pro-keto. He's just fantastic. He's got a lot of good information. He and his wife have a beautiful family, and yeah, they're just fantastic. So if you haven't checked them out, definitely feel free to check them out. So we started October 2nd of 2022. So that was almost 1 year ago, which is really exciting. October 2nd, 2022, we started. My husband went straight line diet, beef, salt, and water, whereas I needed a little more time. I needed a little more variety. I needed some seasonings. I still needed my dairy. Let's be honest. The first 6 weeks were like the roughest time of my entire carnivore experience. So fast forward to April. I was supposed to have some x-rays. When you have x-rays here in the US, or at least where we are, you have to be within the first 10 days of your cycle. So the start of your period is the first day of your cycle, and then the 10th day. So I was not in that window. We were waiting for that window to start. And the window didn't start. And I was like, okay, well, I'll wait a few more days. And I took a test and it was negative. And I was like, oh, I'm like, it's forever a negative test. Like, whatever. I was so upset. And I was just mad, and I just threw it in the garbage. And the following week, it still didn't start. And I was like, okay, something is seriously going on. So I decided to take another test. Well, let me tell you, I took the test and then dropped it in the sink under running water. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is wrong with me? So I was really mad, and I was like, whatever, it's probably negative anyway. So I just threw it in the trash. I left for an appointment. I came back and I saw it sitting there, and I saw these two little faint lines on there, and I was like, wait, what? What? Oh my gosh, what? And so I quickly rummaged around and found another test, and I used the test, and it was immediate positive. And I just started bawling my eyes out and just like praising the Lord and just like crying and just running around my house. And my dogs and my cat grabbed their toys, and they were running around the house. They're like, we don't know why we're excited, but we're running around with you. So it was like a very joyous, very, very joyous experience. And I got to share that with my husband. I waited until the end of the day to tell him until he got home, because I wanted to tell him face to face. I didn't want to call him when he was at work. I didn't want to be a distraction. I just wanted to have that like sacred experience, one-on-one, face-to-face with him. And so when I told him, he was just over the moon excited, because we have been trying for over 4 years. And after our last diagnosis, we were both like, there's got to be something. There's got to be something. I went to the doctor. I was super excited. At the doctor's office, I, of course, wanted to do some blood work just to make sure that things were where they should be. I had already had lined up a midwife for myself. She's amazing, so amazing. And she encouraged me, just with my past history of miscarriages. She said, I really recommend that you go and get your progesterone checked. And so I went, because I felt good, but I had like kind of a one weird day. I was like, I kind of feel a little bit off. And so she encouraged me to go get my blood work. I went and got my blood work, and the doctor's office called me and they said, okay, great. Your progesterone is normal for the 8-week mark. And I was only at about 6 weeks. And I was like, okay. And I asked for the numbers because the numbers are very, very important. Just because they say that you're in the normal range doesn't mean that it's normal for you. And if you have a history of miscarriage, what is in the normal range may actually be too low for you. So I got this information, I got the numbers, I called my midwife back, and she said, okay, yes, I've seen these numbers be okay for some people, but given your history, it may be to your benefit to consider taking a supplement just to help kind of nourish your progesterone up a little bit. And I thought to myself, okay, well, what can this hurt? Because I've had miscarriages before, and I wanted to do everything I could to make sure that my body was nourished and I was eating the right way because I was eating carnivore. But I mean, it still didn't mean that my progesterone was at an optimal level. So I started taking what's called chaste tree extract. And I think it goes by the name Vitex. It's a great little product, and it naturally boosts your progesterone. Within 2 or 3 days, the little bit of symptoms that I had disappeared. I was like, oh, okay, that's neat. And I went back for another progesterone test just to see where my levels were at, and they were now in the optimal range. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. That all happened in April and May of this year in 2023. Fast forward, I am now 26 weeks pregnant. I feel amazing. I have had like no symptoms. It's crazy. You get like round ligament pain, which is where, the ligaments that hold up your uterus start stretching, and it can be really uncomfortable. I've had a little bit of like physiological stuff that's been uncomfortable, but nothing extreme, and I hear these horror stories almost of women who have had these experiences when they're pregnant, where they're puking for the first trimester and they're good for the second trimester and then the last trimester. And my heart goes out to those women. And I wonder, like, what is going on that your body is like just purging and purging and purging. So that's kind of the Coles Notes version of my story that I would like to share with you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. But let me tell you about the first 25, 26 weeks of my pregnancy. So like I mentioned, I found out, and I had a couple of days where I was like kind of not feeling super great, but I didn't have any severe nausea, no severe vomiting, no like heavy cramping or anything like that. I had no bleeding. I had the usual like breast tenderness, just the usual symptoms that women kind of experience, but without any like severity or extremes. I did have some food aversions, which I'll talk about. I did have some food aversions at the beginning. So I had a really hard time with eggs. I went through a period where I had a pork aversion. And the only pork I typically eat is bacon. I'm not a big pork person, and that's a whole other story. But I just had a little bit of a pork aversion. So I just was trying to find things that would work for me. I came across Dr. Sabrina Solt probably a year and a half ago. She's also a carnivore, and I listened to her interview talking about her pregnancy and carnivore, and it was really, really helpful for me. And so I reached out to her. She's amazing. I reached out to her and asked her, like, what was she doing with her early part of her pregnancy when she was kind of experiencing the usual symptoms. And she said her priority was getting her protein in, which is very important. And she said that she was using Equip Prime protein. So I immediately ordered it, and I love it. It's amazing. And if you want to check out Equip Prime protein, you can do so using my link. I have a discount code where you can get 15% off your order, which is a really generous discount. So definitely check out the comments below for that. So if you want to check out Equip Prime protein, you can use code Rochelle. The products that I use currently from Equip Prime are their protein powders, their beef isolates, which I love. And yes, I have chocolate and vanilla when you're pregnant. You kind of got to go with what you crave. You can't be super dogmatic about things. The other thing that I use is their grass-fed collagen. They just released this vanilla flavor, and it's unreal. And Equip is coming out with salted caramel protein, which I'm really excited about. So definitely make sure you check that out. These are a great way to help get your protein up, and it's a really, really clean protein. So I highly recommend that, and you can use code Rochelle. for your equipped order. Back to my symptoms. Basically, the first trimester, I was a little bit more tired than usual. I'm not really a tired person. I'm really super energetic. So for me to be tired, it was kind of weird, but I just took naps when I felt like I needed to take a nap. I went to bed when I was tired, and I went to bed earlier. I usually go to bed about, I sound like an old lady, 8:30, 9 o'clock. I was going to bed sometimes around 7:30 because I was just tired. I just needed the sleep. And besides, when you're in your first trimester, if any of you are not first-time moms, bear with me, you know this information, but if you are new and you haven't had a baby yet, your first trimester, you pee a lot, because your blood volume is doubling and your kidneys are working overtime to filter all that blood. So you will pee more, and you'll pee more at night. And it was just really interesting. So I would go to bed really early just to give myself that extra window of rest. I would take naps when I needed to, and I would just eat what my body asked me to eat. So like I mentioned, I wasn't able to be super strict with my carnivore. There were certain things that when you're pregnant and you crave them, you have to unfortunately kind of submit to the craving. So the things that I craved are very unusual for me. I craved watermelon, which I hate watermelon. I actually hate watermelon. It's the most repulsive fruit to me. I don't know why, but I craved watermelon, which I read is a need for lycopene, and lycopene is really critical to fetal development. So it made sense that I was craving that. That craving lasted about a week and a half in my first trimester. Then I moved on to tomatoes, and it was all kinds of tomatoes, and not processed tomatoes, not canned tomatoes, just like fresh tomatoes. And again, lycopene. And I preferred the tomatoes because they're not sweet. So when you're a carnivore and you're not used to having sugar and sweet things, if you do ingest something sweet, you may get a glucose spike. And when you have the spike, you get a little crash. And I definitely, from the watermelon, would have a spike and a crash. I would get really, really shaky, and I would just feel like puking. And it was not a pregnancy thing. It was just literally a sugar thing. So once I switched to tomatoes, it was a much more pleasant experience. And I was able to use that to fuel my body. And the other thing I craved was sour things. So like sour pickles and spicy pickles. Oh my gosh, anything spicy was just like the most appealing thing ever to me. So I thought to myself, okay, I'll get these spicy dill pickles. I'll eat those. And that only lasted for maybe 2 weeks. That craving is usually an indication of a sodium deficiency. And when your blood volume increases and you're urinating 2, 3, 4 times more than you normally would, you're naturally going to deplete your electrolytes and your sodium. So this is the perfect time for me to tell you about LMNT. I love these electrolytes, you guys. They are amazing. They have all different kinds of flavors. Their raw unflavored is actually really delicious to me. I prefer the raw unflavored, but my husband really enjoys the flavored ones. So here I have a box of flavors. This is some of them. Got a raspberry, a citrus, a chocolate, and a mango chili. Like I said, I prefer the raw unflavored, but their flavors are great. If you haven't checked out my website, reallifecarnivore.com, I post recipes very often on there. And I recently posted a carnivore jello recipe, electrolyte jello recipe. It's delicious. It's so delicious. It's using Further Foods premium gelatin, water, and electrolytes. It's very simple, very straightforward. The instructions are super easy. Literally anybody can make this. And you guys, you have to check this out. So back to my cravings. I was craving spicy things, all things spicy, and salt, lots of salt. So that was because my electrolytes were kind of going all over the place because I was drinking so much water and peeing so much. Once that kind of leveled out and the craving for the pickles went away, the next thing I started craving was chicken tenders. And I don't just mean like fast food chicken tenders. I'm really picky. I craved homemade chicken tenders. And I like to make them with pork panko crumbs, maybe a little bit of seasoning every now and again. But basically you buy the pre-cut, or you can buy chicken breast and cut it up. You dip it in an egg, a scrambled egg wash, and then you dip it in your pork panko, and then you break you bake it, and it's so delicious. It's so delicious, you guys. It's super crunchy, and you can season it any way you want. If you want it spicy, like I wanted it spicy, I used the Slappy Up Mama seasoning, which is really good, and a little bit of garlic and a whole lot of salt. So I was working on keeping my salt and my sodium intake up so that way I wouldn't get leg cramps at night, because when you start to get dehydrated or when your electrolytes go out of balance, it's usually indicated with muscle cramps. I also used Epsom salt baths and magnesium lotion just to help with the muscle cramps that I was having. And that worked really, really well for me. So since the start of my second trimester, the thing that I have still continued to crave are chicken tenders, accompanied with dairy. My husband likes to tease me and call me the dairy fairy because I enjoy dairy so much. And I don't normally need to eat as much dairy as I have been, but dairy is usually an indication that you need more calcium. And at this point, the baby's bones were starting to develop and other tissues that required calcium. So that is why I started to eat more dairy, because if you're craving something, look it up. Check it out, you guys. Do your research. It's so fascinating. Cravings are an indication of a need for something. And I'm not saying craving sugar, but sugar is even an indicator that we need something, whether it be quick energy or a dopamine hit or something. It's a craving for something. So do a little digging around, do a little personal observation, do a little research. It'll totally be worth your time. So my second trimester, like I said, chicken tenders, all the chicken tenders, and lamb. I'm usually a beef girl through and through. I don't even usually eat chicken. I don't really love chicken, but the chicken tenders and lamb. I had a little period during my second trimester where beef was just not my favorite. I would eat ground beef, but no steak, no roast, no other beef, just ground beef all the time. And so I don't know if my body just kind of was like, okay, that's enough of the ground beef, or if it's because we ended up going from 80-20 beef to 90-10 beef and I had to add like butter or bacon fat to it or something like that. But that was just something that I crave. Bacon and eggs. I ate bacon and eggs for like 6 weeks in a row for breakfast. And it was delicious. And then all of a sudden it was just like, nope, no more bacon and eggs. And I found that I have to eat my eggs different ways in order to still enjoy them. Because I mean, you eat the same thing every day, you're probably going to get a little bit bored. Or at least I thought I would get a little bit bored. And it's not so much boredom, but it was just more of an aversion. Oh yeah, butter. I crave a lot of butter too, which I enjoyed butter previous to being pregnant, but now I enjoy it even more. And a really interesting observation that I've had is when I eat butter, within 10, 15 minutes, the baby starts doing the cha-cha or like the merengue. And it's just like, oh, it's like the baby's so excited about the butter. And I'm like, who is this little person that likes butter as much as I do? I'm so excited. So I'm really looking forward to meeting this little person. And yeah, those have been basically my cravings. Those have been my symptoms. If you have any questions, you guys, I would love to hear from you. I would love to know what your experiences have been. I would love to know if you've ever tried carnivore pregnancy or ketovore pregnancy. I would love to know if you know anybody who's ever done it. And yeah, drop me a comment, say hello, send me a wave. I would love to hear from you guys. If you guys are on Instagram, I would love to connect with you there. You can follow me at Real Life Carnivore. If you want to check out my website, it's reallifecarnivore.com. You can also find me in the Steak and Butter gang, where Bella and the gang are just, they got it going on, you guys. And if you want to figure out carnivore and you want community and you want support, definitely come and give us a check out. There is a free community portion of it where you can access group chats and you can access old posts and see what other people did, what people's experiences have been. And then we have challenges. And I love the challenges. I'm a challenge person. I love to do things that kind of test me and like push me and stretch me. So if you're that type of person, or if you just really want to reach a goal, I would highly, highly encourage you to check it out and check out one of our 30-day challenges. And I'll post the link for that below as well. So it's been so nice connecting with you guys. I just appreciate you so much. Thanks for listening to my little story. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Bye for now.